Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and it's time for season 2 of Loki, episode 1, Ouroboros. Welcome, everybody. Let me take care of some business first, and we'll get down to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible to one of the videos. My vast video library and pops it up here just for you. And if you like what you see there, please hit that subscribe button down below there. And if you can, hit that like button and the share button as well. And if you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next, go over to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. I change it every week. And also, I have all the all the links to my social media and pages and all that stuff up there. Good evening, Cheryl. I was going to say good morning there for a second, but yeah, good evening. So let's get to it, shall we? Might as well. Spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episode. If you have not seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Give me enough time to pause, go away, whatever you need to do. All right, that's enough time. All right. So we pretty much just start right off where we left off last season, where Loki's in the TVA, and no one knows who he is. He's running from the TVA again because they think he's a variant, and has to get away. And sorry, I'm scooting my chair in a little bit more there. And of course, he has to make a jump for it. Crashing into where Casey is, and Casey doesn't know who he is either. And then we see him have what looks like his body kind of splits and does this weird shit, and then he disappears. And it turns out that he is going back and forth through time. He realizes he ends up in the same spot. Casey's there again, and just it's the future version of Casey, not the Casey that he had, just been interacting with, who didn't know him. And he's trying to find out where, of course, Mobius is and B-15. And as he's going to walk over there to where they're at, he disappears again. He's going in and out of time. In the meantime, everyone's freaking the fuck out because the main timeline, the sacred timeline, is branching off and having all these branches happening. And B-15, of course, has put out an order not to prune any of the branches because they've all realized now that pruning these branches is killing people, is sending them out to this. Well, really, it's not removing the variants. It's sending them out to the end of the timeline to get eaten by Abeloth, the cloud monster, if you will. And because Mobius has told B-15 this at this point, and Ravonna is gone. Renslayer is gone. So, because of course she was working with Kang, or he who remains, and so everyone's in disarray. They don't know what to do at this point, and some people have taken over the judge's chair. Ravonna's mantle, if you will, and they've called Mobius and B-15 up there to explain themselves why they've stopped pruning the timeline. And of course, it takes Loki, in order to use jumping between past and present, if you will, within the TVA, to realize that all they know that their minds have been wiped too. That's what Mobius and B-15 know. And they're trying to impart this on the judges, but no one wants to believe this. So Loki suddenly pops into the war room and says, yes, this is what's been happening. Here's who's been taking over. And he actually hits the time stick against the wall. The mural disappears, and you see the old mural from the past that Loki had been seeing, which is multiple versions of Kang on the wall. And he says, this is the person who's taken you out of the timeline, who's taken your lives, and has created the TVA. This is who you're working for. You're not working for the timekeepers. The timekeepers, of course, are a fabrication by Kang in order to keep you in line, and all your memories have been wiped. So the judges that are in charge now at this point are like, well, okay, we're going to stop printing the timelines. We've made that decision, but we need to go after Sylvie as well, because Sylvie was the last person who had been at the end of time to kill He Who Remains. But we don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing still. And in the meantime, Loki is, flitting back and forth in the timeline. And so Mobius has an idea. He says, hey, let me take you to this place that I know. It's RNA, research and acquisitions, I believe, or administration. I can't remember offhand what the A stood for. And they go down and they meet Ouroboros. So Ouroboros knows Mobius, but Mobius doesn't know Ouroboros, or as Ouroboros, was called by Mobius, OB. That was his nickname. And Loki, of course, disappears again and goes into the past and sees Ouroboros in the past. And they're talking simultaneously. So it's very confusing at this point. Mobius and Loki. Mobius is talking to Ouroboros in the present. Loki is talking to Ouroboros in the past. And they're both talking about the same thing, what's happening to Loki, this time slippage that he's experiencing. And he's experienced this time slippage because of, I think, being kicked through the time door. We don't know exactly why it's happening, but the way to fix it is they need to get to the temporal loom. They need to put in this device that will extract all the Lokis out of the time stream simultaneously. And then once that happens, Loki has to hit himself with a time stick, you pruning himself so that he gets dragged out of the time stream. And basically, he resets himself, is what goes on. And then he pops back in. The only thing is he ends up, once they get down the temporal loom, we find out that the temporal loom, what that is it takes raw time and it creates the time stream, or the timeline, I should say. And it wasn't built to make multiple timelines or branching timelines. So it's actually fritzing. So the power in the TVA is going out, and Ouroboros needs to close the shutters on this thing in order to protect the TVA from any more time slippage shenanigans that are happening. And then also he needs to retool the temporal loom so that it can handle not only doing the sacred timeline, the singular timeline, but also all the branches as well, making all of those. He needs to retool this because he's the only one that remembers, and he's the one that actually wrote the TVA guidebook. So for those of you who don't know what an Ouroboros is typically in history, it's been represented by a snake eating itself. So it's a circular ring with a snake eating itself. No end, no beginning. It's basically circular time, a time without end, if you will. And that's what his name means, is time without end. So I find this kind of one of those things that is telling us who this character is. Is he working with Kang? Is he not? We don't really know. We're just taking him at face value at the moment. We also get that Ravonna, of course, is working with Kang, because we hear her and Kang on a recording in the past when Loki is in the war room in the past, and he actually is listening to that. So anyway, Loki ends up in the future. He's got a device that will tell him when Mobius has, shot the tether out into the temporal loom in order to grab all his devices. And then he has to prune himself, but he's lost the time stick that he needs. So he needs to find a time stick before, of course, the green light goes off telling him to prune himself. And of course, he doesn't find one. But what he does find is Sylvie in the TVA in an elevator. And when she cracks open the door, the elevator's not working well. She goes, "There you are. I've been looking for you." And as she says this, Loki gets hit with a time stick from behind. We never see who hits him, but luckily he gets hit with a time stick from behind because he needs to do it, once the light turns green, and gets pulled from the timeline, saving both himself and Mobius. In the meantime, General Dox has been raiding the armory in order to go after Sylvie, because they need to stop Sylvie from killing he who remains, which she's already done anyway because all hell's broken loose. And that's pretty much where we leave off on this episode. We do have, a little stinger, mid credits, if you will, or really close to, right after the end frame there. And we see Sylvie show up off of a branch in the timeline in 1982, Broxton, Oklahoma. Now, for those of you who don't read comics, Broxton, Oklahoma in the comics actually follows J. Michael Straczynski's run on Thor. So his run on Thor was Thor is resurrected. This is after Ragnarok. And he ends up in Broxton, Oklahoma. He resurrects Asgard and actually starts finding all the people of Asgard that have been resurrected as well, that have been reborn, if you will. And he's populating them. And Asgard is a floating city over Broxton, Oklahoma. So even mentioning this is a big deal in this series. It and also ties Thor back into this as well. So that's what the big deal was of Broxton, Oklahoma. But she ends up at a McDonald's, and hence you get your McDonald's tie-in that we've been getting all summer long with all of this. So, and of course, General Dox is looking for her and has, bringing an army with a whole bunch of fucking weapons with her to find out where they're at. So that's where we sit. Oh, and Miss Minutes, by the way, no one knows where Miss Minutes is. They can't find her, although Loki says, don't trust her. She's working with Kang. Don't trust Miss Minutes. So, or she's working with He Who Remains. And I don't know where Miss Minutes is either. I haven't seen her in a while. So I don't know where she's at all. But yeah, it's we jumped right back into things. And you know me, if you've been watching this channel enough, I love time travel stuff. So I watched this when it first came out, of course, on Thursday night. I was dead tired, and I kept falling asleep during it just because I was dead tired from work. So I actually had to rewatch it again, and finally kind of, I had watched most of it, but I had fallen asleep during little key moments here and there. So we don't know if Ouroboros is good or bad. We know that he's one of the cogs in the wheel that actually helps run the place, and he hasn't had his mind wiped because he remembers Mobius. He starts to remember Loki because Loki, of course, went back into the past and started remembering all of that as well. And he, of course, is the only person down in RNA who is doing any work down there. So he doesn't sleep, he doesn't take any breaks, because if he does, then work orders pile up, is what he says, and bad stuff happens. He also knows how the temporal loom works. Obviously, he knows how to retool the temporal loom in order to get it to work with not only making the timeline, but also making the timeline with branches coming off of it as well. So he can actually retool it that way. Pretty powerful person to have, as a friend, I guess, down there. And we don't know who pruned Loki, because again, he was hit from behind. I watched it. I kind of ran it back a couple times. You never see the person behind him because of the way the stick hits. It comes right through his chest here, and as he is dissolving, we pan away from it. So, or we cut out to something else. So, yeah, it's we're back into the madness of all of this, and it's a lot of fun, quite honestly. I'm looking forward to next week's episode. I don't know how many episodes we have here. It may, I thought about that too, CBM. The telephone was ringing. He never picked up the telephone either. And it got me wondering what would have happened if he picked up the telephone. It would have been interesting to see, what that was. Let me see here. Yeah, 6 episodes. So we're just going with 6 episodes. I have a feeling, and this is something that I've always toyed with in my head with a time travel story, is you have a time travel story that is, you basically have a linear story that is going through, but what you do is you tell it out of order. And that's what they're doing here. is they have a linear story that's going on, but they're telling it out of order. And this is an interesting concept of doing a time travel story this way, of telling a time travel story out of order. And a lot of people are going to be turned off by it. I can say this right now, because they're going to be confused by it. And this is something I love, is when you tell this kind of story out of order and it doesn't make sense until the end. Um, Something similar to this, Memento, uh, you know, Guy Pearce with it's one of Christopher Nolan's first movies. I think it was his first movie, as a matter of fact, which is told backwards. Not so it's not linear really, and it is linear, but it's backwards. But this one's going to be a little bit different in that you have a linear story, but it's all told out of order, and we're going to come in different pieces of it until it all makes sense, and then everything will come, come into view. And I already see how they're doing it that way, and I dig it. I'm with this on on this one. So looking forward to how they're actually going to work this through. Because again, like I said, this is an idea I've had in my head for a while, is doing a time travel story this way, is piecemealing it, but have it all come together at the end. And I'm glad to see someone else, has had that same twisted thought that I had, and then they're doing it. So what else do I have going on for the rest of this week? Well, I'm going to be doing Gen V here, episode 4 of Gen V, probably around 6:30-ish. Yeah, in about 2 hours from now. That's the Boys spinoff on Amazon Prime, so I'm going to do that today at 6:30-ish. Tomorrow I'm going to be off. Monday I'm going to be off. Tuesday I'm going to be off. Wednesday I come back because there is a contest for Ahsoka, and first prize for that is, of course, the Star Wars shirt there, and second prize is Ahsoka on a keychain, Lego Ahsoka, and also the light up Mickey cube. And all you have to do is put a comment in that video, before Wednesday there, and you can put as many comments as you want. You're only going to get one entry, and as long as you are live in the continental United States or have a address in the continental United States, I can ship it to you. CBM says this episode was filmed excellently. I think a lot of visual attention. Yes. Fisheye lenses, also constricted frames. It had a lot of anxiety to it, I guess you could say, in all of this. And I kind of like the way they did it, CBM. They did a good job on this one. Also, the pacing of it is just boom, boom, boom. Everything works really, really well. And they don't take time to stop and explain something, which I'm also digging as well. They're letting you, the audience, figure it out for themselves as they go through this. And sure, there's little quips and stuff like that from Mobius as we're going through, but it's more of the it's in the line of, oh my god, what the fuck is going on, kind of thing. And I like that. That's what I like about this series, is that yes, it has leaned into the dystopian setting as well. I agree. Yes, the everything is not quite right, and then also, everyone has been pulled out of their own lives in order to work for a overlord, if you will. And yeah, and it's everything is not what it seems. Everything is not hunky-dory. Yeah. But yeah, I'm digging the way they did this. So it'll be a lot of fun. So with that said, oh, there's Miss Minutes right there. Now, so yes, of course, there is going to be a contest at the end of this one as well, and that is going to be one of the prizes. There is a Miss Minutes pin, and that's not going to stay, obviously, because I had to balance it last time. But that's going to be the end of this series. All right. I'm going to let you guys go. Thanks to everybody who joined me today in the chat. And thank you if you made it this far in the video. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible to one of the videos, my vast video library. It's over 1,000 videos. Then you pop something up here for you. If you like what you see there, please hit that subscribe button down below there. And if you can, hit that like button, the share button as well. And if you want to know when I'll be on live again next, go over to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. I change it out every week. Also, I have all the links to my social media there and all the links to my pages as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will see you again around 6:30-ish here, Pacific Standard Time. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may be jumping through time and need to prune yourself, but you lost your time stick, and you know how that goes. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again in a little bit. Have a good rest of your afternoon, evening here, and I'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. See ya.